I did it. I might eat a little bit before I start. Thank you for these bird seeds. Now, what a nice guy. They're bird seeds.
What's with the pigeons?
Okay. Are you recording?
Why? No, Roger's fine.
I'm not anti-gay.
No, he's lying.
I've said words that might be derogatory towards gay people,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that
I'm not triggered by words.
I don't think you should.
It's your intentions. What do you believe? I don't want to kill any gay people. All right, so today I'm going to be talking to Big Ardz. Obviously, the last time we met, I was being chased around the park like a Benny Hill skit, and then he left the park. I was still here, but Big Ardz is a good guy, so don't give him no stick. That day we had a misunderstanding, and obviously I've heard some stuff about him on a live stream that proved to me that he's actually a decent dude, which is why I'm giving him 30 minutes of my time now. I'm protesting, so 30 minutes, I don't want no one else interfering. It's between me and him. And if anyone interferes, the conversation is stopped. Yeah? So, one of the reasons why Big Ardz...
Free speech!
Shut up, you Indian. One of the reasons why he was upset with me was because of the fact that I was calling Pakistan a third world country and a gutter-dwelling shithole. Now, I want you to explain why you were angry with me, then I'll explain to you why I was calling it that.
I was angry because all of them things are false. And you want to back them up, man? Back up your statements with some facts right now, bro.
All right. So
it's not down to me to explain why I'm angry.
All right. So let me explain something. When I call something a shithole, it doesn't mean the country looks like shit. When I went to LA for twice, I was thrown out for free. I call LA a shithole. Watch any videos. Ask him. Yep. People ask me, "What do you think of LA?" I call it shithole. The reason being is beautiful. I'm trying to explain to you. When I'm referring to a country, I'm not talking about the land. I'm talking about how it's run. Okay. So when I go to LA, there's no infrastructure, there's no buses, there's no trains, there's guns everywhere.
Where have you been in Pakistan?
No, but what I'm trying, let me just explain why I call countries that. Because a lot of people are getting confused that I'm actually calling the land and the people a shithole. I'm calling the government and the way it's run a shithole.
So he's clarifying basically you weren't talking about the people of the
No, of course not. The land is Punjab, so that's my place as well. 70 years ago, it was part of India.
So what do you want to argue about?
So the reason why I started, because if you look at any of my videos, I've never talked about Pakistan. I've always criticised India. Obviously, where's that? I'm an Indian.
Don't bring him into it.
No, I'm just saying it. So I've always criticised India, but big up to Vidu Vids, who's Pakistani himself and an atheist.
Where's he from?
I can't remember. I think he's Kashmir. Yeah. So he's Vidu.
Them man are funny about.
Hold on. Vidu.
No, can I add into that? Kashmiri brothers are always funny about when they're Pakistani or when they're Kashmiri. So I just tried to put that out there.
No, but the thing is, the reason why I started criticising because Vidu Vids is an atheist, and so is his wife, and so is his dad. And he done a video around 4 weeks ago criticising Pakistan and Imran Khan. So when I started researching, I started realising what Imran Khan is doing is very dangerous. So when I'm criticising
what is he
Pakistan,
doing? What's dangerous?
Well, what do you know about Imran Khan?
I know everything about what he's doing.
I'll say explain to me what good he's doing first, and I'll tell you what he's doing.
What good he's doing so far? Shall I tell you about what he's going to do now, or what he's done in the past 10, 15, 20 years? What would you like to know?
All right, I'll ask you a question. Explain to me what happened to his finances.
Which finances?
Well, he just had a finance. I could Google it, but he had a finance minister who's been sacked.
Why did he get sacked?
Do you know why he's been sacked? Because he's an Ahmadiyya Muslim, and the Ahmadiyya Muslims are the most persecuted group in Pakistan, and they are not classified as Muslims. So he was sacked, not because this guy was one of the top economists in the world. He wasn't sacked because of his...
Can I add in one thing before you go on? I want to add one thing in right here. Do you know why Pakistan was created? Do you know?
It's a separate land for the Muslims.
Yeah, so it's the only country in the world, the only country in the world that has been created in the name of Islam. So it's a state for Islam only, right? So when you're saying these kind of things, you're applying the logic of the Western world to my country.
No, I'm not applying the logic.
You are, because this is what you're saying. You're saying he got sacked because he's an Ahmadiyya. Brother, you know why he got sacked? That's normal. It's logical.
So you're saying to me that an Ahmadiyya Muslim, because he's a minority, he cannot be in government?
Well, not in our country, no. It's logical.
So
what's bad about that? It's our country.
But what about, alright, so you agree with discrimination against minorities? Not in Pakistan.
In Pakistan, there's no discrimination against minorities, right?
No minorities
get discriminated, but you're saying like discriminate like the guy who has food or jobs or something.
No, but a man who's qualified to be a finance minister was sacked because he's a minority.
Let me bring it back to the fact that I just pointed out here. Pakistan was created for Islamic country, right? That's it. There's nothing else. There's no other reason for the country to be created, right? So what I'm saying is, so when we have like minorities that can destabilize the Islamic government, like the Islamic population and everything that we have close here, the reason we made that country, we can't have that. So there's certain jobs that, yeah, if you're really gonna like jeopardize the state, yes, you can't have them jobs.
So an Ahmadiyya Muslim.
What doesn't make sense?
Hold on, the Ahmadiyya Muslim, the guy that was, I believe in meritocracy. So it should be based on your meritocracy. How qualified are you for the job? This particular guy, when Imran Khan first met him, didn't know he's an Ahmadiyya. He just thought he was Muslim. So he put him as a finance minister, saying he's one of the top economists. When he found it was Ahmadiyya, he then sacked him.
But can I ask you a question? Isn't that his prerogative? It's his country.
But can I not criticise that?
Yeah, you can, but don't call it a third world.
No. So the other thing is, I would call the government the third world.
Yeah, you talk about
The
that.
government shit.
My country's been shit. Listen, my country's government has been shit for the past since we got independence.
So let me explain something. Pakistan has had four military dictatorships.
And we talk about the 50,000 Sikhs that live in Pakistan.
Alright. So when it comes to, I'm going to do one thing. The Sikhs are treated relatively well, yeah?
There's 50,000 Sikhs
No, the
living in
Sikhs are
Pakistan
treated relatively well.
And about 15 to 18,000 migrated Sikh asylum status refugees from Afghanistan, fleeing the persecution in Afghanistan in the last 10 to 15 years.
Alright. So what about the
They
Christians?
didn't go to India or Punjab in India. They came to Pakistan.
Alright. So let me
Why
ask
is
you.
that?
I will concede that the Sikhs are treated very well. But what about the Christians and the
They're
Hindus?
treated very well.
Do you know there's a Christian?
In my village, listen, where I'm from, in my village, there are tribes of Hindu people. Yeah?
Blackstreet.
Yeah, we call them Bodhiya. They're called Bodhiya. You listen,
I'm listening, but you need
they live there. No one persecutes them.
Hold on.
They
Alright, so
practice their faith.
let me
No one does
explain
that to
something. There's a lady in prison, Asisia Bibi.
Have you ever been to Pakistan?
Hold on, Asisia Bibi, who is a Christian, who's in prison for 8 years on death sentence for mocking Muhammad.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
Is it against the law to mock Muhammad?
But I'm asking you from a moral
I'm
standpoint.
answering it for you. Is
From
it
a
against the
moral
law?
standpoint.
Forget morals. Is it against the law in Pakistan, right, to blasphemy anything?
It's against the law, but I think it's barbaric.
Okay, well, you have your opinion.
So the government
But
is
what I'm
a
saying
shit.
is, if you're living in that country and you know that's the law and you're willing to do that, should you not be willing to, take the punishment after?
So you agree with the death penalty?
I don't
for
agree with the death
blasphemy?
penalty, no.
Because there is a woman in
Is she
prison
dead?
right now. She's not
How
dead
long
now,
has
but-
she been in prison
but
for?
She's been in prison for 8 years.
Yes, she hasn't been.
She's trying to get the fine. She's having one more appeal.
So she hasn't been given the
She's
death
been given one more appeal. She fails. She's gonna be hanged.
She hasn't been given the death penalty.
It's going to happen.
She's getting
It's going to happen. They're going through the legal process. The other thing is, I would have lost. I think Pakistan started becoming more Islamic in the 1980s. They started introducing
Should it not be?
Sharia.
Should it not be?
I'm not saying whether it should be, but as a minority, it's very dangerous for certain people like Christians and Hindus in Pakistan.
Have you been on the ground?
Hold on, let me say something.
Where have you been in the
Hold on,
ground?
hold on. No, but you start saying me saying to you, you can't talk about Palestine. Well, you can.
I can talk about what I see online.
Yeah, I know. So I'm talking about what I've heard.
You have to go on the
Hold on, all right. So let me explain something. In the last 15 years, 65 people have been murdered for blasphemy.
How many years?
In the last 15 years. 65 people have been murdered for blasphemy, not through the courts, but by public hanging. So when somebody makes
How
a
many
claim,
people have, you said,
well, we'll talk about it next time because I'm going to divert.
So I can't say how many people have been killed in this country. You can say,
We had a criteria what we're going to talk about, yeah? So what I'm trying to say to you is that as a country, not the land, as a government, the government, yes, the government is the main thing. It's how the country is run. But it's how the country is run.
if you know South Asian countries, you know the people are what will run that country. If it came down to it, everyone got weapons and they can overthrow the government. You know that for sure.
Yeah, but all right, so let me explain something. There are 3 countries in the third world. You have North Korea. Why is North Korea in the third world? Hold on. Why is North Korea in the third world? Why do I classify North Korea in the third world?
You tell me it's your opinion.
Because North Korea is one of the most depraved countries, and it's a communist state where you can't do anything, and people are being persecuted for their political beliefs. Then you have Saudi Arabia, is in the third world as well. The reason why they're in the third world is they have the worst human rights in the whole world. They are committing every day one execution every day. So, and the third country that went into the third world 4 weeks ago when Imran Khan went in was Pakistan. the reason being, let me explain something about Imran Khan. He done a video 3 years ago saying that he was going to be more moderate. He said he's going to have more minorities in his government. He's going to relax the blasphemy laws. Hold on. He's going to relax the blasphemy laws. What he's doing now, he's going into the country and he's strengthening the blasphemy law, which is going to because it's going to affect the minorities. No, it doesn't matter because I can empathise with people. Oh, so you believe suppressing them with blasphemy laws?
So what are we stopping them from doing? Just saying anything derogatory about the Prophet or So
but do you believe that people should be killed for them?
I didn't say that.
Because that's the punishment.
I said that people should be punished.
No, but the punishment is death.
I don't agree with that.
So, government do you
But that is a maximum sentence. You're paying it in one way and saying
It doesn't matter.
you're paying it in one way that anyone that's blasphemy, Pakistan is going to go and get a death sentence. That's the severity, what you've done, right? And also the second person, right? Like your mental health.
Yeah, but the problem we have now is you have to understand the reason why blasphemy is so important is that Imran Khan, not only was it hold on, look what Imran Khan was, hold on, please let me talk. Imran Khan, the reason why I'm so hard against Imran Khan is because he went into government saying one thing and now he's backtracked and he's a very hard-line guy. So what he wants to do, he wants to go to the UN and the United Nations where you talk about, you go to United Nations to talk about poverty, economics, about world peace. Hold on, but I need to say it because people might not heard it. But Imran Khan wants to go to the United Nations and talk about drawings of Muhammad. And he wants the Muslim world to strengthen blasphemy laws.
Okay, that's a valid point for you in your eyes, thinking that, it's going to affect you worldwide, right? But how many panel members are going to vote on this, I want to know? And how many of them are Muslim countries? So even if all the Muslim countries voted, it's still not going to get passed. It will take Western countries to vote too, in line with Imran Khan for this to pass. So why are you worried about it?
He's not putting the UN resolution.
It's not going to go through.
That's right, he's not even doing the resolution. He's giving a speech, not about a resolution. And then when he says to say, let's say Afghanistan, he gives a speech and says, we need to strengthen blasphemy laws. It's not the UN that's going to do it. It's going to be the country that's going to do it. It's not a UN resolution he's doing. He's giving a speech about blasphemy. Now you have 30 or so countries around the world here that already have very strict blasphemy laws. He wants to strengthen those, and unfortunately people that are Christians, Buddhists, atheists, Sikhs and everybody will be affected in those countries negatively, not you. Alright, so let's talk about Pakistan. Let me say the positives of Pakistan. Pakistan is now the most important Muslim country in the world for a number of reasons. It's the only superpower that has a nuclear weapon. Economically, it's getting quite strong. And the thing is, so you have the majority of Muslims here are from Pakistan now. If you look at the biggest land mass, you're talking about this 200 million Muslims. Oh yeah, second. So second. So what Pakistan says now could have resonated throughout the whole world. Yeah, but what I'm saying, Pakistan is a nuclear power that can go into so I picked them up as well. But what I'm trying to say to you is that you're talking about like Imran Khan, like he's not going to make any effect.
The only thing so far that you brought up here is one thing, blasphemy laws. That's it. Do you have any other problem with my country?
That's massive.
Do you have any other problem?
That's a massive problem though.
So is that the only problem that you got? Is that the only thing? Is that the only reason?
That's the main reason.
Alright,
so let's go into the other reason. I'll say something else. Pakistan is a proud state as well.
Bro.
Because it has not had a stable government because
You don't like Tim
in the
Basin.
last 70 years.
This is beyond atheism, by the way, sis.
Oh, hi.
You've had all military
Yeah, I do, yeah. Sophia.
That says something about the country's stability.
Sophia Lewis.
Out of 70 years, 35 years. But I'm trying to give you another reason why Pakistan is a state. Because the point is, it hasn't got a stable government. there's a lot of corruption there. On top of that, this is why Imran Khan is actually being controlled by the Islamists. This is why he's bringing. It's not what I think.
Let me address that point here. Before Imran Khan, he's never had a stable government, right? Because people like Nawaz Sharif, Benazir Bhutto, all these other PMLN and PPP, right? And they're just taking their money from the people. There's no like welfare state set up for the people. There's nothing set up for the people at the moment, right? What we're saying is that Imran Khan is going against like the same kind of thing. But he's the first person that the public actually voted.
I didn't say that. You're straw man.
Okay, you can address it after I stop speaking, innit? And then right now, what Imran Khan is trying to do, he's trying to set up like an NHS system, the same way we have over here in the UK. He's trying to set up like more schools, more hospitals, yeah, more stuff for the elderly. He's already had a cancer hospital open for how many years, right? He's treats the patients for free, where people couldn't afford it, right? So, if anything, he's moving in the right direction. It's a step forward for Pakistan at the moment. And if you've got anything to say against that,
Alright, so I'm going to give props to Imran Khan for doing things for the country like improving the National Health Service, the economy, and trying to push forwards in that way. But there's no point pushing forwards that way and then going backward steps when it comes to the religious zealotry of that country. It's becoming more Islamic, yeah, and it's going to be a detriment to the minorities. I'm telling you that in that country, the blasphemy laws are being used here as a way to get people to shut up or to persecute them. There have been 65 murders since 1990, and the reason they were murdered is because somebody said that person said something about Muhammad with no proof. The whole village comes out, kills him. They don't even go to trial. The only one that's gone to trial at the moment is a Cisia Bibi, and she was put into prison because somebody said she said something about Muhammad. So she's been in prison for 8 years. She's got 3 kids. She's on a death sentence. She's having her last hearing, an appeal in June, I think, next month. Next month, and if it fails, she'll be hanged for blasphemy. You think it's acceptable?
Coming back to you again, in the blasphemy law again, when I asked him, is that the only point you got? And he keeps referring back to the blasphemy law.
No, that's the main reason.
Can I speak? Yeah. Imran Khan is the first Pakistani president, Prime Minister that has offered a peaceful hand to India and said that let's start negotiations. And they threw it back in our face and said we're not doing it, right? So he's progressive. You guys are being like, regressive. So tell me, are you going to keep using that blasphemy law?
No, because that's the whole reason.
Okay, in the war on terror in Iraq here, over 2 million civilians have been killed, and he's talking about 60-something people.
No, but you're not looking at the wider round. Hold on.
Muslims get treated in...
Hold on.
You know what he is, yeah? You don't want to do that.
I'm not going to know the part from here. I'm going to do
He doesn't want to do that.
I'm not going to do Hold on. Sorry. I'm not going to know the part from Big Ardz. I'm only talking to Big Ardz. I'm only talking about Big Ardz. So if you're going to start talking to in the conversation, so we will talk about that next week here. Alright, so we got a topic. India is a shithole as well. I don't support India either. So I don't classify myself as Indian. I don't classify myself as Indian. So alright, so let me say something. Let me say something. I'm Punjabi. Hold on. So let me say something. You don't understand when you're prime minister or president, yeah, the first thing they do, because blasphemy is the main reason. Yeah, it's a massive reason.
No, but you keep saying it's one of the main reasons. You don't have other reasons.
I told you it's a failed state as well.
But it's not. I proved you it's not.
No, it's been under military dictatorship for 35 years or 70 years. Well, it's around 30 years.
Listen, every time we went to a military dictatorship, after that, we had an election, and a democratically elected government was put into place. Every single time. So
no, you had periods of retreat that he had 8 years.
Yeah, so what? He had 8 years, he stabilized the country, and then we had a democratically elected government put into place.
Yes.
So how can something be a failed state when we have democratically elected people put into place, right? And,
I'm not saying I'm up to the...
They're actually completing their terms and coming out.
Alright. Over the last few years, that's why I never called it a shithole until recently, because the main reason is blasphemy. For me,
what you need to do, right?
Hold on. For you as a Muslim, it means nothing. No, I won't change my words. For you, no, I can say what I want. But I've explained to you that it's not the land.
About the government.
It's, yeah, of course it's the government. When I call America shit, I'm not calling the people shit, am I? So when I say LA's a shithole, go to LA, it's the most beautiful place in the world. Yeah, LA's the most beautiful place in the world, but it's a shithole. So all I'm saying is that for Muslims here who are watching this year, you need to understand that your Prime Minister, Imran Khan, might be doing amazing things in other areas. But when he's going back on one of the fundamental rights of people, which is the right to speak, it's a problem. You have people persecuted in Pakistan that are going to be on death sentences, people are going to be lynched and murdered, and also because he's going to the UN, which is a worldwide stage, when he has a worldwide stage and he's going to be speaking about blasphemy, saying people can't draw cartoons, people can't do that, you are going to have you're going to influence some of these countries to become more hardline than they are already. It's the problem for me.
Okay, so you keep talking about blasphemy laws and people getting lynched and mobbed, right? I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen, but it happens around the world in a lot of countries, right? I'll give you my personal experiences. From where I'm from, in my country, in my village, we have a lot of Hindu minorities living in our village. We have a lot of Christian minorities living in our village, right? None of them have ever been lynched or mobbed that I have ever seen in my life or heard of, or any tales passed down from generation to generation. If anything, we live in harmony. There's certain tasks that we can't do as Muslims and they like doing, as in hunting certain animals, and they go do that and we will pay them for that. But I mean, in Pakistan, everyone lives in harmony. We coexist, right? We know there's minorities in our country and we coexist with them. The laws that we pass through our government, it has nothing to do with the Western world. We are a sovereign state, right? We get to determine our own fate. None of you people can tell us how to determine our own fate, right? Simple as.
I can condemn them.
You can condemn it as much as you want.
It's a shithole.
Yeah, you can talk about the government, but
don't talk
about the people.
But I'm not going to keep saying the Pakistani government. I don't say that about any
Just clarify it today once on COE so everyone knows what you're talking about.
Everybody, when I say America's a shithole, I'm not talking about the American people or the land. It's a beautiful country. I'm trying to give you an example of one of the most affluent countries in the world. When you go to LA, LA is beautiful, but it's a shithole. Yeah, because of the infrastructure. Yeah, so I'm not talking about.
Next week I'm gonna debate you on your bits and all the stuff you come out with. I'm gonna come out with bare stuff.
I don't like India anyway. So.
No, I'm not going to talk about India.
I'll be condemning him with him.
I'm going to stick just to Punjab.
I will talk about
Indian Punjab, just Indian Punjab.
I may not be the best person, but I'll try.
No, because that's where you're from, right? You don't represent it. So I'm going to bring up next week I'll bring up all the atrocities that have happened in history of Punjab in India and all the kind of drug misuses that are happening and everything. And what kind of regressive state that has become. And yeah,
I enjoy it.
You can back that.
Maybe I could talk about your side of Punjab. We could have a little place. Punjab has been cut in half. What people need to understand, Punjab was.
On the Pakistani side of Punjab, there's 200 million people living there. How many in your side of Punjab?
I think there's probably around 50 million.
How productive is your state compared to ours?
It's the breadbasket of India.
We're a bigger breadbasket.
No, it's a breadbasket, and we make up 1% of the population, about 50% of the army.
So
we're on the border. This is why Pakistan can't invade India.
What you're saying is you're fools.
You can't invade India because of the Sikhs on the border.
Can I address it? So
I'm just saying.
You're saying you're fools that you're fighting for someone that don't even want to give you your own sovereign nation or your
I'm not pro-Indian though.
Rights, even to
I'm not pro-Indian. I hate India.
You're fighting for.
I hate India.
You know that, right? That's the people.
I do not like
but
India.
But that fact that you keep bringing up, we're 1% of the population and 15% of the army. What I'm saying is,
dude, we don't want the Pakistanis coming into Punjab.
We're not doing that. Why are we coming to Punjab?
I'm just saying they're on the border here.
Pakistan is pro-Khalistan.
When there's a war, you
know that, right?
Yeah, but the reason you're pro, let me explain why they're pro-Khalistan before anyone starts saying Pakistan is a pro-Khalistan. Hold on, let me explain. We used to be in the same area 80 years ago, yeah, called Punjab, yeah. Used to be called Punjab, yeah. It was split in half, a bit like, sorry. It's split in half, yeah. And so half's in Pakistan now and half's in India. The Sikhs are on the Indian side with some Hindus, and the majority of Pakistani Muslims are on the Pakistan side. The reason why they want Punjab out is because it's very important in terms of trying to invade into India. If you take out Punjab, I know you're Timma.
Do you think if all the Japs and that from my country want to do, you think they couldn't?
All I'm saying is, no, you couldn't. You tried.
You got Japs.
Can we talk about the 2 wars then? Can we talk about the 2 wars?
You know when we had them wars? When we were like just, you know when you were like a puppy, you're like 6 months old and you know you're ready to fight, but you really can't fuck with the older dog. That's how it is. India's a massive state, you know. Every time we had them wars, we was on our infancy. Right now, in this day and age, brother, we are technically.
Do you believe in Ghazwa Talinda?
You know the skies, yeah. When it comes to the skies, Pakistan will rule the skies.
Did you hear that? Hold on. We're gonna talk about this, right? You believe in Ghazwa
Talinda, and that's how wars are won. The wars are won.
Let me explain what Ghazwa Talinda is, yeah. Ghazwa Talinda is a prophecy from Prophet Muhammad saying that India will be 100% Muslim and that they will be conquered. So this guy believes in that. And you're never getting into India.
We're not talking about India.
You only need one man like me
No,
down
why are you
there.
talking about India? I'm talking about
I'm
Pakistan.
just saying that there's a prophecy. The reason why India.
Why don't we talk about this?
I've got one more statement to make here. In 2007, a law was passed in Pakistan for the Sikh community to be allowed to come to Pakistan and renew their vows in their heritage and their traditional ways that they do it, and the existing Sikhs in our country to do that as well. So they can come from Canada, America, London to Pakistan, get a visa, renew their vows, marriage vows in Pakistan, and they'll get a certificate, binding that shows that it's a real. These are the kind of privileges that are given to us.
Yeah, all right. They are treating the Sikhs relatively well, but you have the Christians and the Hindus that are persecuted maliciously, mercilessly.
Amen.
Well, go over to the Christians that are here.
You named something like 60-something cases in the last 15, 20 years.
That's a lot.
Yeah, but brother, do you know how many, the population of Pakistan is like 250 million. So 65 people in the last 15
But those are the
years,
only recorded
not, brother, no, everything's recorded, brother. Everything's in the media these days, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that many people in that many years.
But do you think it's normal?
Does that act like it's a problem?
But do you think it's normal?
Or does that look like that's just a case here and there?
All right, but do you think, let me ask you a question, do you think it's normal that if someone said X, Y, Z against Prophet Muhammad, that they should be killed? Because 65 people
I already
may be
told
killed
you
for
it's
that.
not normal.
I know, so 65 is too much.
Are you hearing what I'm saying? If they want to do that, Raj, they need to get the hell out of the country and go to a country that allows them to do it. No, but there's a reason for that. Look, if you want to carry on doing what you're doing, right, and practice free speech, what you're saying, peacefully, come to a place like Speaker's Corner and do it. Don't come to a Muslim country where they have blasphemy laws and practice that there, does it? Does that make sense to you?
But can you not see how that can be abused?
I have seen.
Same thing in Jewish.
I have understood.
Let me give you a
I have
hypothetical.
understood what you said, and I said
Let me
it's
give you a
problem.
hypothetical.
But what I'm saying is, then people should go out of the country.
Alright, let me give you a
and go somewhere
hypothetical.
else and
Can I give you a hypothetical?
Stop lying, Raj.
Can I give you a hypothetical? Imagine, yeah, me and you are in Pakistan and Punjab now in the Pakistan side. We're by ourselves, we don't like each other. You then accuse me of blasphemy. There's no other way.
Are you Muslim as well?
I'm not Muslim. You didn't accuse me. Hold on. You accused me maliciously of blasphemy, but there is no way for me to prove that I didn't say it. There's only two of us. Do you know under that particular law, people would still be fined, prosecuted? Yeah, there'd be no CCBB. Because obviously, so I don't just think about Sikhs. This is the problem. I think about humanity, and if humanity is being affected.
I've already said to you, it's 20 years, yeah, 250 million population. Come on, in 20 years, these are random cases, very isolated cases.
We'll talk about that.
These cases can happen anywhere in the world. People are getting killed everywhere in the world. People are getting stabbed and that. There's no way to talk
He thinks he's going to conquer India.
So yeah, like I
That's
said,
a lot.
Pakistan gives a lot of rights.
How many
to minorities.
billions of people there?
The minorities fight in our air force, they fight in our military, they fight in our navy, they're teachers, they are police officers, you know, they're very
So
members of the
people
community.
leaving you there?
Yeah, and then stuck with that.
It's got no other point to make apart from that blasphemy.
You want me to tell that for the one?
No, it's fine.
That's why you want Punjab out of the way. Because we're your biggest nightmare. That
Big up COE,
they want
Big man speak.
I'm gonna have to throw some ad hominem in here now. The pigeon can't handle the heat now. He's turning around, you get me? I said, no, stop with your boy, tell him. Boy, he can't handle the heat. Look, even his boy's funny. He said, what? Look, he's doing all over there.
Oh, so Big Ardz, we'll do next week another one. We'll do like a chapter.
You want to say your last piece and then I'll say my last piece?
I want to hear your last.
No.
Well, that's a big up Betty as well, I think. Betty's the one that's going to do. Look, I don't have nothing against landmass, people. I do critique governments. And if I say X, Y, Z, London's a shithole, I'm not talking about London in terms of its beauty. You can see it's beautiful. I'm talking about the infrastructure and whether it's running properly. And I still stand by the claim that I say Pakistan is a shithole country.
As
and
well
a
as-
third world country.
As well as.
Because of the government. And Imran Khan, and Saudi Arabia and North Korea.
As I said before, you get me, Raj came with that same old thing about blasphemy, What I had to say about that was, look, every country has their own rights to determine what laws are passed and how they are practiced, right? So, as I said before, if you want to practice your rights of freedom of speech and slander anything to do with the Prophet or Islam, come to a country, seek asylum status, refugee status and say that my life is at risk the way he's saying, and come and, you know, get immigration status here and slander the country as much as you want. But I'll let you know that you can't be a Muslim country, simple as. And there's no way that I'm going to say, no, that's a bad thing. It's a very good thing. You shouldn't be able to slander my country in a Muslim country. When you're in Muslim countries, you have different laws and who abide by them to the fullest, right? When I came across you, I loved it. Last time. Today I came and spoke.
Enjoyed it though, Benny Hill style.
Today I've come and spoke to you very nicely, you get me? So, end of the day, Pakistan has given minorities a lot of rights, as I've said earlier in the thing. I don't want to go over them again, right? The governments, yes, governments are corrupt all around the world. Governments do make mistakes and everything like that. But on the ground, we're talking about on the ground, the people are very nice, hospitable, we live in harmony, we love each other. The Pakistani Sikhs, they die for the country. The Christian Pakistanis, they die for the country. The Hindu Pakistanis, they die for the country. The stuff he's talking about, the isolated cases, he only talked about a very small number in 20 years.
Can I get you on a live?
Big up COE, you get me? Subscribe, like and share, and all this.
Can you come onto our live show? I'll get VD Vids.
Yeah.
So this week I'm really at VD Vids. If you're listening, because he's Pakistani as well, and he's the one that told me about it. Maybe you can explain it in more depth.
Next week I'm gonna do Raj on the Indian side of Punjab.
I'll agree. I agree. There's a lot of problems down there. There's a lot of problems. Anyway, are we going to kiss my brother?
All we do is yes, man.
Anyway, it's all over.
Yes,
man.
my brother.
All right, that's good. It's out of the way.
Men in action, brother. Men in action.
All right, thanks.
So today I showed him a second move.
Exactly 30 minutes.